Good morning, Dubai. Late afternoon, late morning, India, late evening, Australia, and midnight of Canada. That's the power of square yards. So, I think last time I addressed all of you was 4 months back. Most of you. You can't hear me? On? Better? YouTube can hear loud and clear. Abhi to I asked, can you guys hear me? You said yes. Now you can hear me. So where are we? So last time I addressed most of you was 4 months back. Uh, it was gloom. Obviously, the countries were getting into lockdown. No one knew what the future holds. And I requested all of you to rise up to the occasion. We did that in style. I think last 4 months deserve an applause. We haven't had a better period than this. Let me give you some numbers. In the last 4 months, Square Yards did almost 100 crores of revenue. People, to help other currencies, it's almost $13 million, almost 20 million Australian dollars, Canadian dollars, and 50 million dirhams in 4 months. Most profitable stretch for Square Yards by a distance. Most importantly, the market share. I think we have put LinkedIn posts, we have shouted from the rooftops, but let's understand the gravity of these numbers. 1 out of every 5 transactions in India in new home sales in the last 4 months were done by Square Yards. That's massive. And obviously, it comes with the due rewards. We have distributed in these times almost 10 to 11 crores of incentives in the last 4 months. I hope people got their payouts couple of days back here. We'll have appraisal cycle in the next couple of weeks. Sorry, delayed by a month because of mountains of pendencies which came through, and I'll touch upon that. Uh, More importantly, I like every crisis gives birth to an innovation. What we realized, and we were forced to realize because of the lockdown, that productivity matters. We had been running the engines for so long with semi-productive workforce. On an average, our activation globally, couple of verticals aside, used to be around 30%, and which was the primary reason we never made profits. We made profits for the last couple of quarters, but before that, we did not. What changed in the last 4 months? That our productivity, our activation went almost 2x. We had the better products, but whatever it was, it set the template of what the next 5 years is going to be. We went to the work from home model. Lot of work from home people must be joining this podcast. Delighted to say almost 280 transactions by work from home people who are not on our payrolls, who have never come to Square Yards office. 99% of them have never met most of us face to face, and almost 280 transactions in the last 4 months. Commendable. Phenomenal, guys. Thank you. And we'll talk about, so the whole purpose of doing this was to launch Square Yards convertible phase 3. It may not be relevant for a lot of people in India, but this is the third phase of fundraise we are doing. First 2 phases were extremely successful, and I'll talk about Square Yards story in detail later on. But the last time, if you remember, I talked about belief. I told everyone to rise up and believe that it is possible to sell over the phone. I told everyone that it is possible that in these markets, in this lockdown, when people are losing jobs, when economy is going to shit, people will still buy homes. And people did. We did 4,000 transactions in 4 months, 4,000 real estate transactions. You lost me again. I don't know why. Still better now? No. Better? No. Do we have any other mic? Like hand mic? Anything? Now? Nope. Now? Nope. Even if I shout? No. We don't have any mic. Now? Make sure doesn't go off again. So I was talking about the belief. Before we touch upon square yards and who we are, a lot of people know who we are, what we do on a day-to-day basis, but a lot of people may not be able to relate to the larger organization. I want to talk about little stories. Uh, Beliefs what shaped me and to an extent DNA of square yards. So I was, and some of you have heard this in couple of town halls before. So sorry for being repetitive. I was very lucky. I was born poor. I say in double quotes. I was very, very, very lucky. We grew up in a very, very small house. So we can't even call it a house. It was practically a room. I I remember I saw my first movie when I was 20 years. I didn't sit in a flight till I was 24. Eating out was a luxury. We used to go out once a year. And that once a year, obviously, we used to savor. It used to be an occasion, a Diwali or a Holi or someone's birthday. We used to go out to eat. For years and years and years, we couldn't buy a new tiffin box. We couldn't buy a new school bag. My parents were government servants. They worked in the same job for 35 years. Same salary, same designation, same job. They used to go into the morning. They used to come back in the evening. And not even once in 35 years till they retired, I have seen them complain. Not even once I saw them cribbing about their work. Not even once I saw them cribbing about the culture, cribbing about they're not getting growth, they're not getting money, so on and so forth. Why I'm saying all this is the one attribute which is very, very important, at least in my life, which taught me was patience. Every good thing takes time to come. Patience was, is, and will always be the most important attribute in Square Yard's DNA. I failed too many times in life. Uh, I think I went to the 99% of the people would not have even heard of my engineering college name. And we have a couple of batchmates in Square Yards now from, it was not even in top 200. So obviously all dreams were shattered. As expected, when you go to such a college, you don't get placed, you don't get a job. Happened with me. My first job was 4,000 rupees, Indian rupees, a document pickup boy. And I did that for 12 months. And I remember, that was 2002. I remember not complaining. I remember not being grumpy every single morning when I was riding on my bike for 1 hour to report to our office and then traveling 100 kilometers every single day to earn 4,000 rupees in a month. Because I was learning. Every single day I was learning. This was my first time in a corporate career. I was meeting new people. I was meeting seniors. I was meeting potential clients. Every interaction I was learning something from. Every incident I was learning something from. By default, I cracked CAT, but when I was in final years of engineering, I got calls, but I couldn't convert any call because I actually did not even know importance of IAMS. I did that again next year. Now, a side story to that story is every time I have failed, I hustled. I hustled more. If I could not crack IAMS first time, I ensured I cracked all IAMS the next year. I couldn't get through any interview, only one, and I did not know what to say in that interview. I was failing spectacularly in middle of the interview. Something in my mind told me this is the last shot at potential career success I have. Shamelessly, I told my interviewers, I am sorry, I don't know anything you are asking. I can talk about cricket. These were my words in an IAM interview. They were taken aback. They said, okay, let's talk about cricket. We spoke about cricket for the next 45 minutes. We spoke about records. I had practically every match statistics at my hand. That proved how good I was in maths, my analytical skills, and I got through. But again, I went into comfort zone. I was one of the two people in IIMs who did not get placed. What did I do again? I hustled. I bought every single book I did not read in the campus. In the next 6 months, I changed 7 jobs to ensure I landed in my dream job, which I could not when I was at the IIMs. I went to Lehman Brothers. Again, very interesting interview story. I had zero clue about. Obviously, I could not become a finance guru in 6 months. What people do took years to study. I remember the first day we were generally having an introductory session, and I tell people, I asked a couple of my colleagues who came from IIM Bangalore and IIM Ahmedabad, what is equity? The entire floor laughed at me. Like, I am supposed to be an investment banker. First day of my job, Lehman Brothers, and I don't know what equity is. They couldn't believe. They thought I'm lying. They thought I'm playing a prank. I genuinely did not know what equity is. I genuinely did not know what stocks mean. And that was my first day of the job as a banker. Again, hustled. I ensured that that was the last time anyone laughed at me in the corporate circles. Before I knew, and obviously I had to work hard, and we will talk about that. But before I knew, I became the blue-eyed boy of the management. It obviously took years, but I rose faster than all the colleagues who laughed at me. Much faster. I became the youngest executive director in Nomura. Why I'm saying all that? Because every time you fail, failing is very, very important. Every time Square Yards has failed multiple number of times, and we'll talk about those. Every time you fail, you need to hustle. You can't quit. I have never blamed destiny. I have never blamed my bosses. I have never blamed my colleagues. I have never blamed my peers. I have never blamed my culture. My first job, again, Lehman Brothers, 2 months into the job, I got shifted into the guy who's probably the worst boss anyone could ever have. He abused. He abused me in front of 100 people. Again, I'm repeating, I was an investment banker earning almost $100,000 a year. First job, I am graduate, and scolded, chided in front of 100 people every single day, abused in front of people every single day. But I told him, was I happy? No. What did I tell myself? What will it take for me to impress this guy? He must want to do good in his life. He must want brilliant comrades in his team. He is clearly not happy with me. Somehow I am not delivering to his expectation. That was my thought process always. I didn't blame him. Ask Kanika. Like every single day we had discussions about Sayan Mukherjee. That was his guy's name. That Sayan did this today. Sayan, to ensure that I rise up in his eyes. In 2.5 years, not 2.5, 1.5 years, when he had nothing but good to say about me, when I was the best performer in his team, I quit his team. I still didn't quit the organization because it was not the organization's fault. It was that person's fault, but I ensured I quit on a high. Never be a quitter. Never leave when people tell you you left because you could not deliver. Always quit in a high. Always deliver, get your due success, and then move on. And this is that legacy of what happened in those couple of years effectively remained with me till the time started Square Yards. And that is where the entire linkage of how we fail and how we take risk. Risk was very, very critical to my upbringing. I had nothing to lose. I had never had nothing to lose. Even today, Square Yards goes to zero. I will still go home go at home and night sleep happy peacefully. I have never thought about plan Bs. I have never thought about failures. I have never thought about what if. I have never thought about worst case scenario. So what? Whatever happens, it will still be better than the first 15 years I spent. We will always have a food to eat. We will always have a home to live in. And that's probably more important. That peace is more important than anything else, guys. Every single morning you get up, you need to feel happy. You need to smile. You need to go to work. You need to stop cribbing. Every single minute you crib about anything, any work environment, pressure, job, salaries, increments, you are losing another productive hour from your life. You could answer that by performing. No, trust me, it's not about Square Yards. No organization in this world would hate to displease performers. No organization would want non-performers. No organization would not want to pamper performers. No one. No boss would want to do that. Everyone wants to grow. Everyone starts their career to grow. Everyone starts their organizations, when they start their first day at the organization, they want to do well. Everyone want to do well, but how many people actually hustle to do that? So when I quit Nomura, I was at my peak. Imagine a guy with my upbringing earning millions of dollars at its peak, quitting one fine day without any security, without any safety net. Reason, my heart told me to do that. I thought this was probably the best thing I could do, and I'll take. And I probably when I'm 60, when I'm 70, I wouldn't tell myself that I didn't take this risk. And that risk defines everything we do in Square Yards. Every single vertical we have opened. My parents still don't understand what I do. Whenever I meet them, they still tell me कि तू क्या banker से broker बन गया. They have absolutely no clue what we have built. Thousands out of 1,000 people I met told me not to do that. Multiple challenges. Industry kharab hai. People don't pay. Developers is a dirty sector. So on and so forth. Everywhere there is a challenge, there is an opportunity. Unless there are challenges, unless there are problems, what will you disrupt? You can't disrupt anything. So that was very, very important. We did that. Every time, I think my colleagues, my senior management knows that I'm an eternal optimist. When we talk about anything we want to do, I jump at it like a kid. That anything new excites me. Yes, we should do it. Probably should blow a couple of $1 million trying to experiment it. We might fail, but we might learn something new. If we had not risked, mortgage would not happen. If we had not risked, NRI would not have happened. If we had not risked, IPM would not have happened. Yes, there were mistakes. We went to cross country, but I still believe one day cross country will be huge. If we had not taken risk, we would not have started rentals now. And I believe we will continue to do that. And why it is very important for all of you to understand Square Yards, an entity where you spend most of your days, most of your hours, will continue to do that because it defines you in the next 10 years. We are trying to create a generational story, guys. It's not a 1 year story. It's not a 2 year story. And because we are trying to grow so fast, and talked about hustle, we need people. We need people who can believe in this vision for the next 10 years. I know there is, and obviously the last 20 years, a lot has changed. I love and hate this term called instant gratification. The instant gratification is in fashion these days. Everyone wants to get rich faster. Everyone wants salary increments of 100% every 6 months. Everyone wants to become a P&L in 1 year. Everyone wants to become a principal partner. Everyone wants, and it's not bad. People believe that without putting in hard slog, hard miles for n number of years, you could get there faster. And that's where the disconnect is, folks. Everything takes time. People see a CEO tag, people see Tanush Shori, people see $300 million, people see a Maserati, people see, oh, this envious of his life. People don't see the 18-hour work days behind it. People don't see the 100-hour work weeks. People don't see for months and months in a row going to office at 7 a.m., coming back at midnight without any weekend, for not even months, for years. People don't see that. People don't see that I missed my childbirth because I was traveling for a client. I knew my younger son would be born during that time, but I still chose to go for that client meeting. I still chose to go for a travel, and it was not my firm. I was still working for Nomura because I was always an entrepreneur, even when I was working for someone. That was my job. That was my responsibility to make it right. I wanted exponential growth. Those were the sacrifices I chose to make, and I cannot blame anyone for that. But that's what people don't see, what goes behind building anything you build over a long period of time. I'm like we interview most of you. We ask you about, I think one of my favorite concept is organic growth. I harp upon that a lot of times. So a lot of my leaders know that when we interview a candidate, and probably most of you, this question was asked, how fast did you grow financially in the same organization you work? I'll put that upon you, that the same organic growth concept is very, very relevant to the people who come to hire you. Next time any one of you is getting a call from a headhunter, please ask them, what is your organic growth? How much the organization has grown in the last 4 years? What is the valuation, how it has grown in the last 5 years? Because what you will do in the next 10 years is not just a function of how capable you are, how aggressive you are, how hardworking you are. 50% of whatever you will achieve in the next 10 years, or probably more than 50%, will be a function of the platform you will be working with. If that platform cannot grow, and I'll talk about India-China story, I'll talk about Lianjia. Lianjia is the largest Chinese brokerage, getting listed at $35 billion. Same verticals that Square Yards has in. Square Yards is $300 million. We have done everything right, what they have done. We have similar market share as they have. The difference, platform. China is a 40 times larger market than India. So because of China as being the 40 times larger market, Lianjia is 100 times the size of valuation of Square Yards. So that is why the platform will always matter. Ask these tough questions. Ask these people, will you give me ESOPs? What were these ESOPs worth 4 years back? What these ESOPs will be in 5 years? Please don't look for instant gratification. Next 6 months, next 1 year, next 2 years are not going to define you. Maximum incremental, what will happen? You will buy one more car. You will buy one more house. That's about it. If a platform, and that platform may be Square Yards, maybe someone else, if that platform works for you, in the next 10 years, you will create a generational wealth. And when I say generational wealth, it means that next 7 generations would not need to work. So the difference is, do you want that extra car, or do you want a status where 7 generations are not needed to work? Yeah, they should work. No one should sit at home. But what's the difference you want? And it's all a function of how you choose what you choose in a platform. We love, at least I love our DNA. I don't know about my colleagues, but I love our DNA. I proudly say, when I take my interviews, we don't give work-life balance. And I'm proud of that. I don't believe in, and I've said multiple times, I'm again reiterating, we are a boiler room. People who are new, people who have spent 2 months in the system, 3 months in the system, 1 month in the system, may have realized that, may not have realized that, but we are a boiler room. And we are proud to be a boiler room. One thing we are proud of, we would have done something right. You go out in the market with a Square Yards tag and there will be 10 offers waiting for you. You go out in the market, and if you believe, if you tell them you have survived in Square Yards for 12 months, for 18 months, you will get probably 70-80% high. We would have done something right to create that. Why other organizations don't create that? Why would someone want to give that up for again an instant gratification? So these are the questions I want you to take home, because as we talk about Square Yards, as we talk about convertibles, as we talk about the story we pitch to the clients, but for me, my most important clients are you guys. The 3,000 people on YouTube going to achieve in the next 10 years, no one is going to stop us. And this is what will create, and I'm telling you again n number of times, this is what will create 100x wealth, potentially more than that. I don't know how many of you have ever looked at your ESOPs in Beats. It's in dashboards or reports, I don't know. My ESOPs. Have a look at it. I think open it right away. Everyone on the YouTube, just open that link. Whoever has got ESOPs, open that link. Just see on the report card, Hitesh would have written the exact link of ESOPs. Where it is? In dashboards, my ESOPs. Reports, my ESOPs. Please, everyone. Can everyone look at it? Whoever has it? Can we? How many of you have ESOPs here on this floor? Great. Now, whatever number you see, multiply that by 300 times. Open your calculators, multiply that by 300 times. In the next 10 years, this will be the bare minimum amount which will be liquid in your bank accounts, if not more. Bare minimum. And why? Everyone has the brochure? Can YouTube guys see the presentation? Just check. Can they see the presentation? Can they? On the messages they are saying they can. उसमें convertible है ना, we don't want to put. For everyone, it is very, very critical to know exactly what we are. You might be working in a silo. You might be working in under a T2 in an NRI or an IPM or Australia or Mumbai or Pune or Bangalore or Gurgaon. But even if you are in that silo, it's very, very critical for you to understand the platform and to realize what could be your growth in the next 5 years. We are the suckers for, I think this is the 100th time I'm saying this statement. We are the suckers for growth. Come and tell me you will grow 100 times. We will put the word on your feet. We want people who want to grow 100 times. We want people who can come and tell us that I want to head a country, I want to head a region, I want to head a city in 2 years, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to get there. Who are we? 6 years, $1 billion of GTV. There are only 15 startups, consumer tech startups in India with $1 billion of GTV. $45 million revenue last year. There are only 30 to 35 consumer tech startups in India with $45 million of revenue, and we will be one of the 10 youngest amongst them. But more importantly, we are the only one of the few 5 or 6 consumer tech startups which are profitable with this growth. We are the only more than 50% control of the organization, and we have no intent to give that up. We attract almost 2 million monthly visitors to our portal, which is massive. Considering we had never been a platform, people don't associate us with classified platforms, but that's a strategy which has changed in the last 1 year. Over the next 12 months, you will see us racing for the top. I think one thing which I want to highlight: any vertical we start, any new business line we start, it goes in binary direction. Either we become the largest in 24 months, or we shut that down. We would never do anything just for the sake of it. If we are in a particular vertical, please understand we are racing for the top. That's why we exist. If we are in Australia primary business, if we are in Canada primary business, because we want to become the largest. We are just launching Dubai agency. We launched Dubai agency. We are launching Australia agency because we want to become the largest agency. We launched the mortgage business to become the largest mortgage distributor, and we became. Look at the chart on the right. This has been our growth. Ups and downs, yes, but we are talking about 0 to 45 million revenue in flat 6 years. We are talking about 0 to $260 million valuation in flat 6 years. And I believe this is not even 1% of what we should and we would do. I think these 4 slides are the essence of the next 10 years, are the essence of the number which I told you 300 times, are the essence of generational wealth, the concept which I have been harping upon. The very important chart is this red chart. China, let's look at China and India. India is a $100 billion real estate market with the last decade. India was a $100 billion market almost 8 years back. India is still a $100 billion market. China was a $1 trillion market 10 years back. So there was a time India was 100 billion, China was a trillion. It was touted India will become a trillion in 10 years. Today, China is a $3 trillion real estate market. $3 trillion versus $100 billion. That's 30 times the market size. In primary, in new home sales, India does 25,000 transactions a month pre-COVID. I'm talking about. During COVID, India did 5,000 transactions a month. 5,000 with a population of 1.3 billion. China does 1 million transactions a month, new home sales. Indonesia, with 1/3 of the population, does 40,000 transactions a month. US, being a developed economy, there's just not enough demand for new home sales, does 50,000 new home sales transactions a month. It is as ridiculously underpenetrated a number as you will ever see anywhere. And there are reasons for that. The reasons are asset prices, the reasons are indirect costs, the reasons were markets or large correction, the rental yields are low. But the fact of the matter is, population need houses. India's urbanization is 33%. By any account, this urbanization will be either 50% or 60% or 70% in 15 years. What does that mean? Almost 300 to 400 million people will move into cities. Even if you assume a family of 4, we are talking about 70 to 100 million homes needed in the next 10 years. Understand these numbers, 70 to 100 million. I'm not getting into prices, whether they are $100,000, whether they are $50,000, immaterial. 100 million homes needed. What India builds every year today? Not even 300,000. Not even 300,000. Before we will realize, I don't know when it will happen. It might happen in 2 years, it might happen in 4 years, it might happen this year. I don't know when. At some point in time, this sector will explode. When I say explode, we will run out of opportunities, we will run out of time, we will run out of inventory. There will be enough demand. And most of this obviously explosion will happen in the affordable segment, mass market segment. But there will be a time when India will do almost 500,000 transactions a month, which on the last 4-month base is 100 times growth. But we don't need to do anything. All we need to do is survive. All we need to do is maintain our market share. All we need to do is we still have the same mind sharety of the sector, and the country will make us 100 times larger. And this is, I'm talking about only new home sales, and this is, I'm only talking about maintaining our market share. Will we maintain our market share? Will we maintain our market share? No. We will grow 5 times. We are not going to be a 3% market share. The larger you are, the easier it is. The larger we have been, the easier it has been in the last 3 years. Last 4 months is a very, very good testament. When the consolidation happens in the industry, and it will happen, when the consolidation happens, the larger players becomes much larger. Our market share went from 4% to 20%. It will correct as the market normalizes in the near term because of consolidation. This was a very good peak, very interesting peak of what future will hold 4 years down the line. 5 years down the line, 4 years down the line, sector could be 50 times larger. We will have a 5 times larger market share. What does it mean? What does it mean? Simple math. 10 into 10, 5 into 20. What does it mean? In 5 years I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 15 years. 15 years there will be 200, 300 times. 100 times growth in just the primary business we have. Just in India. We have not included Australia. We have not included Dubai. We have not included IPM. We have not included Canada. Then on the top of that, we are building the ecosystem. How many players can control the ecosystem? And you know why we started to build the ecosystem? Just in a very casual, jokingly way, last year we used to talk about, it's not every day you are the largest player in the largest sector in one of the largest economies. Again, repeat that with me. We are the largest player in the largest sector in one of the largest economies in the world. One fine day, it hit us. Because we are the largest, why would we leave the room open for new players to come and control the other ecosystem subsegments? Just talk about the opportunity. The primary brokerage opportunity in India is almost equal to the rental and property management opportunity. slightly higher than secondary management, secondary business opportunity. If we come to the global primary markets, they are at least, if we just combine the countries we are operating in, they are at least 5 to 7 times larger opportunity today than India is. And then you, on the top of that, combine the mortgage. Mortgage is probably 1/4 of the overall opportunity of the primary brokerage. We will run out of growth. We will run out of opportunities. We will run out of looking at areas of how we cannot grow. There's so much growth available in the sector. Every year we have a potential to double and triple and still not run out of growth. That is effectively the sheer size of the scale we are talking about here. And what it needs to capture that? What it needs to capture that? What did I say in the first 15 minutes of my address? It needs three things. That's it. It needs patience. It needs belief, yes, always. It needs hustle. It needs taking risks and failing and taking risks and failing. And it needs you. I wish we were 10,000 people overnight. There is so much demand. Right? We have to say no to 90% of the potentially high velocity inventory because we just don't have enough people. We just don't have enough people. We just don't have enough workforce. We just don't have enough distribution capacity to capture this. We should be 5 times larger overnight. We are not talking about 1 year. We should be 5 times larger overnight. And anytime the organization grows, you get that multiplied into 2x in your growth. We have built the largest broker aggregation platform. Most of you have heard the name Connect. Most of you still don't realize the relevance of Connect. Let me go back to the old slide and tell you the relevance of Connect. Lianjia in China started their version of Connect 2 years back in 2018. Today, that Connect is again sheer size and scale of the opportunity. When you control the market, when you control the marketplace, everything and anything will happen in this space. You will get that massive synergies in your growth. Azuro, obviously we have heard about Azuro. Brilliant team. We took on board Altaf, Sudhanshu and team. Young, hungry kids. But I don't think even they realize the potential of Azuro. And obviously we have a call every couple of days, and collectively we are pushing to go forward to the growth. I believe Azuro is the most underrated, underpenetrated, under-realized opportunity, not just India, any global markets would have. Rentals is the heart of any economy. Let me give you an example. Most of you are sitting in Dubai in front of me. In Dubai, every month there are 2,000 or 2,500 primary transactions, another 1,000 secondary transactions. Can anyone tell me how many rental transactions happen every month? How many? Agency people? $35,000 rental transactions a month. Any economy, rental transactions are at least 10 to 20 times the size of primary and secondary transaction. And this is the safe economy. Rental transactions don't go up and down based on where the economy and the GDP growth is. People still want to rent. People still want to stay in houses. Your rental yields may go up and down, but the transaction volume doesn't change. It keeps on increasing. Home ownership in India in urban areas is only 55%, which means the opportunity we have in Azuro is we can't even become to fathom. I think I have put people believe I have put an aspirational target of 1,000 transactions per month by early next year. I believe anything less than 5,000 to 10,000 Azuro transactions per month in the next 10 months, and we would have failed spectacularly. We would have failed terribly. we would not have done justice to this opportunity. Just Azuro alone could be worth much more than the entire square yards in isolation. Edge. How many people understand what edge is? What it is? Simple one word answer. What is edge? Square beats. Edge is beats. Edge is technology which has shaped us every single day since we started, which has shaped our processes, which has shaped our entire journey, digital journey. How do we interact with the client? What does the client do in the transaction? How the journey unfolds? How can we digitize? This will always, see, please understand, when you go to the market, when you talk to potential clients, people will say, yours is not a tech business. Yes, it is not a 100% digital business because it's a heterogeneous asset class. What is an heterogeneous asset class? Which means every project, every site, every floor, every house, every view, every floor plan is different. That is a heterogeneous asset class. That's why it can never be, never say never. We don't know what blockchain will do and AI will do and VR will do in the next few years, and we should be ready for it. But at least in a near foreseeable future, you will not have a zero human involvement transaction because of it being a heterogeneous asset class. When you buy a car, you know a car make is. If you want to buy a Honda, you know what a Honda looks like. You know which are the color variants in Honda. You can still go online and buy. You can buy online everything. So what is the role of technology in real estate being a heterogeneous asset class? The role of technology is to digitize as much part of the value chain as we can to make your life easier, to make clients' life easier. Isn't that the role of technology in the first place, to bring efficiency? I think I'm very, very proud because of Beats, and Beats is a fulcrum of everything we have done. And it is not just in terms of how we interact with clients and your lead management. Lead management is only a small part of it. When we talk about Beats, it's effectively the entire value chain. Everyone knows our pendency system. Everyone knows focus project dashboards, the control over where the transaction should flow, what are checks and balances. I want to highlight one important parameter here, not relevant for Dubai because Dubai is a fairly sorted industry. For in India, what is our working capital cycle? Working capital cycle is the days it takes from the day you do the business to the time we get the money. What is our working capital cycle in India? 7 to 8 months. What is the working capital cycle of the industry? 1.5 to 2 years. If they are lucky, they get paid. So first of all, they have to be lucky. And if they are lucky, then 1.5 to 2 years. The reason we are at 7 months versus they are at 2 years, obviously partly has to do with scale, but partly has to do with processes. The business which does not exist should not exist. The business, what we talk about transactions, it's not about creation, it's not about getting them counted, it's not about getting them confirmed, it's about getting them collected. And that is when you get paid, that is when we get paid. Every endeavor we are taking on a single daily basis is to bring the working capital cycle down to 3 months. In Dubai, it is 3 months. And we want India to get down to 3 months, and very much possible. Beats play a significant role in that. Beats play a significant role in how we manage inventory. Beats plays a significant role in how we manage the clients. Beats plays a significant role in how we manage the client queries after the transaction is done. So anything and everything which can be automated should be automated, and that is Edge. We are here competing with the largest industry participants like Salesforce, etc. And I'll be proud to say, in the last 3 months since it was launched, we have captured 15 large accounts in India. We are the fastest growing real estate SaaS platform in India. Give it 6 months, we will launch it globally. Why we are not launching globally today? Similar to Azuro, similar to other things we have done, India is a test market. We would want to fail in our comfort zones. Everything we do, we try in India, we fail enough. I believe we will fail 5 times, 10 times in edge over the next 6 months before we perfect our product and we go global. Another 6 months, early next year, Edge will become one of the largest and will strive to become one of the largest SaaS platforms in the world. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about a primary business which we have the largest market share, continue to grow in a market share, massive mind share. We control the ecosystem to the extent that we make developers push forward the launches. Developers consult with us, should we launch this month or next month? That is the power of scale. That has a potential 100x growth in the next 5 to 8 years. We have a rentals business which could become larger than primary, which we have a global primary business, Dubai, Australia, Canada, where we are not the largest, we are not even top 3. Sky is the limit of how fast, how large, how soon we can get there in the next 4 or 5 years. Then we have the secondary business, which is an agency business. We call in Dubai, we call in Australia, we are launching. We just launched in Canada and we'll be launching in India over the next 6 months, which by definition, once we become good in secondary business, by definition, entire world becomes our pedestal. We are no longer constrained by the primary market. We are no longer constrained by, we only have to expand to emerging markets. If we become large enough in rentals, large enough in edge, large enough in secondary, what is our growth potential? Growth potential does not remain just India. And India in itself was our 200x, 300x growth story. Our growth potential reaches out to 100 plus countries. There has not been even a single large real estate prop tech player which is a global player. Not even a single. Largest prop tech player globally is Lianjia, which is now getting listed, only present in China. Cut out China, you add India, you add Indonesia, we'll be launching Southeast Asia, other regions of Middle East, you add Philippines. You know how many transactions Manila does in a month? Any guesses? New homes. 7,000 primary transactions a month, 3 times larger than any Indian city. How fragmented that is? 70,000 brokers. The largest player does 15 transactions a month. That's the opportunity we are talking about. Any global city which does thousands and thousands of transactions, which has massively fragmented ecosystem, hundreds of thousands of brokers, is our marketplace. I'll be gutted. I should resign. My all senior management colleagues should resign if we don't become $100 billion. Please mark my words. I'm not talking about $1 billion. I'm not talking about $2 billion. Becoming a unicorn is not the goal anymore. I don't even feel excited by the thought of becoming a unicorn. I'll be gutted. I should resign. I should consider this is my greatest failure in life if we don't become $100 billion in the next 20 years. $100 billion means 350 times from here. 350 times organizational growth from here means your current worth becoming 350 times plus every single year ESOPs you will get becoming either 100 times or 50 times or 70 times. You will not be able to count zeros in your bank accounts. Trust me. Give it 20 years. Have patience. No one is running out of time here. No one is running out of food here. If I were in your place, if I got this opportunity, if someone told me this vision, if someone told me to back it, trust me, I will work for free in the next 10 years. I will tell them to put all my salary in ESOPs. I will tell them to put all my incentives in ESOP. Just give me enough to eat every month. None of you realize, and I'm telling you about none of you, I mean my colleagues and co-founders, even they don't realize to full extent the cusp of the opportunity we are sitting at. This is humongous. This is one of the largest potential sectoral global place we have been lucky to originate in. We have been lucky so far, and luck always plays a critical role when you do well. Luck never plays any role when you do bad. When you do bad, it is your hard work. When you do well, it is all luck. Remember these. Luck has had a tremendous role to play in us being at the right place at the right time and becoming a largest player in this space in such a short span of time. It doesn't happen every day. I'm like, if tomorrow someone comes in and writes me a check of $1 billion, like White had sold to Baiju, everyone was going gaga on LinkedIn. Such a fast exit, made $300 million in 18 months. You know, the first thing I told Kaniga, he's a fool. If he was seeing such rapid growth, he could have aimed for 20, $30 billion. Why would you sell yourself for $300 million? Why would you do that? If someone writes me a check for $1 billion for Square Yards today, is it tempting? Yes. I own 50% of Square Yards, 500 million in my bank account. I can do anything in my life. I can travel for the rest of my life. My kids, their kids can travel for the rest of their life without worrying about anything. In fact, I can potentially go to Mars with that money. But what will I do every single day when I wake up? Will I have energy to start something new? Potentially, yes. I will. I think I'll always have energy. Will I be lucky enough again to start something which becomes largest player in a space so underpenetrated that there is a 300x growth potential? I think really fortunes would need to favor me for me to be that lucky again. The thing about luck is, if you feel you get lucky, you make it count. We got lucky. By hook, by crook, somehow, survival, we got here where we are today. We have seen the worst of times. There have been months we did not have money to pay salaries. We have taken loans at the last minute. We are past all through that. We are lucky to be here after all those times. Once we have been lucky enough to be here, we will not give it up. I won't give it up, at least. And I'll damn ensure that 50 people around me won't give it up. And because we won't do that, trust me, whether we'll grow at 100%, 50%, 40%, 1 year could be good, 1 quarter may be good, 1 quarter may not be good. Business will come and go, people will come and go, P&Ls will come and go. Hungry enough to follow this for 20 years. Trust me again, I am repeating, in 20 years, we will be one of the top 100 organizations in the world. I can write it in my blood on this platform today, come whatever may, if I am alive. If I'm 60 and I'm still alive, $100 billion will happen. Has to happen. Thank you, guys.